Or it's got yellow.
I think that's in color. How about orange?
That red's good.
Like 2.5 weeks. What you got? Yeah.
Two and a half weeks fly back. Okay, at this time it's 5:30. I need a motion to return to open session.
So I so moved that we return back to open session.
Let's see.
Second.
We have a motion to second, turn to open session. All those in favor say motion, let know by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. All right, this time we're down to approval of the minutes of the June 8th and the June 8th and July 20th meetings. I need a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor of said motion, let know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. All right, motion carries. Okay, at this time we're down to special recognition. Dr. Goodman.
Yes, the South Carolina School Boards Association in 1982 instituted their Boardsmanship Institute. This institute places a priority on leadership and team training for South Carolina school board members. There are actually 6 levels of Boardsmanship Institute that can be awarded. And tonight we're recognizing 2 of our board members who have reached the level 4 standing. Those 2 board members are Dr. Wayne Chapman and Mr. Robert Teal, have both achieved level 4 status. We would like to congratulate them and thank them both for their service and for being recognized in this way. Dr. Chapman, I do have your pen and certificate here. I will send your way. Mr. Teal, I think yours is at your spot since we're not supposed to shake hands or anything, but congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Congratulations. All right. Congratulations, Bo. Appreciate y'all's interest in growing your knowledge and being able to serve in a better way. At this time, we're gonna move on down to the financial report. Mr. Willard, June, July monthly reviews.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Before you, you have the catch-up report for the month of June and for July. The June report does not give you any year-end data. That is truly just a monthly review. But I'll be glad to answer any questions or maybe take any comments regarding those reports.
Any questions? Hearing none, move forward.
All right, and in your packets, we have, we're presenting to you tonight another resolution for the 2022 forward refunding that we're going to be doing. As you recall, a few months ago, you gave us the authorization through resolution to refund the 2012 series of bonds. So we did enter into negotiations and enter into the process with our financial advisors. That closed in July, and the winning bidder on that, JP Morgan. So once that was completed, because this is a forward refunding that will not take place until March of 2022, you're being brought tonight a resolution to enter into a term loan agreement with JP Morgan, or as you'll see it on the forms, as you've seen, DNT Asset Trust, which is a division of JP Morgan. This term loan agreement is not a loan agreement in the sense that financial transactions take place now. This is just simply stating that JP Morgan is setting aside that capital for the transaction that would take place in March of 2022 when we do the ultimate closing on that. A forward refunding of this type is done because if we do a refunding in a 90-day time frame from the call date, we cannot take advantage of the non-taxable benefits of a bonding transaction of this type. So we bring before you this evening a resolution to approve us to enter into this term loan agreement with JP Morgan or DNT Asset Trust in anticipation of us closing this out in March of 2022. And I'll remind you, when we originally gave you preliminary savings, that came in at $756,000. Once we closed this, the anticipated savings at that time went to $879,000. So if the interest rates stay favorable over the next period of, obviously we're looking at, 17, 18 months away before we really get into this. If they remain favorable, we tend to benefit greatly off of this. But we do bring before you tonight and recommend approval of this resolution.
All right, need a motion. A motion.
Dr. Chapman.
Dr. Chapman,
Yes, it is. So moved.
Second.
a second, Ms. Birch. All those in favor say motion, and I'm saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. All right, motion carries. Thank you, Doug.
And I want to bring real quick one thing to your attention. We have already received the revenue, the check from the South Carolina Forestry Commission. We got it a little earlier this year than normal, but we received in lieu of sales tax collections this year, $588,529.16 from the South Carolina Forestry Commission. But I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Give me that figure again from the South Carolina Forestry Service.
$588,529.16.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
What was the reason for getting it so early?
We don't know. We honestly don't know, did not ask any questions once it came in. We've had plenty of other things going on, so that went in the bank.
I was just thinking, how much interest that we have lost in the past for waiting 6 months. But anyway, that's all right. Go ahead. We'll talk about it later.
Sure thing.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, now we're down to our personnel report, Dr. Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, at this time, I'd like to recommend the following exhibits for your approval this evening. The exhibits A through E.
So moved.
Second.
Second that motion.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor said motion, let know by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. All right, motion carried. Thank you, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you.
All right, this time we're down to our superintendent report, Dr. Goodman.
Yes, last month, when we met last month on the 20th, we brought you a tentative calendar proposal. If our entry plan was approved by the state, our entry plan was approved by the state. It was in alignment with this calendar. Of course, anything at this point is subject to change, but we do bring you this calendar for approval. A few things I would note: we did push back the teacher start date by 1 week, which also pushed back the student start date by a week. Because of the addition of the leap days, we actually are not going, we will finish high schools on Friday, the 4th of June. We will finish the elementary and middle schools on Thursday, June the 10th this coming year. And we did have to take out some days that had been placed as vacation days or holidays in the middle of the year, but we did not impact Christmas and we did not impact spring break at all. So administration would recommend approval of the calendar as presented.
Need a motion to approve the calendar.
So moved.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor said motion, let me know I'm saying aye.
Aye. I had a question on that calendar, but you've already done the motion. When is graduation going to take place this year then?
Haven't made a final decision, but graduation could be on Friday, the 4th of June or Saturday, the 5th of June, depending on, inclement weather and all those kinds of things.
So after graduation, we'll still have a week that the kids will still go back to school.
Elementary and middle school students will still have a week. Yes, sir. Remember, the elementary and middle schools have extra days this year.
All
All right, good. Thank you.
good, okay. We want to call for the vote. All in favor said motion, I'm saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
Aye.
motion carries. All right, continue on.
Okay, we also bring to you tonight a revision in policy ADB, which is the drug-free schools. In this policy revision, what it says is basically what has been going on here for quite a number of years, which is that a student with substance will be referred to a hearing with the Office of Student Services. We put this in place a number of years ago because there are a lot of different interventions that we're allowed to use now in the case of drug offenses by students. Those would include Alpha Center services. Those might include alternative school services. They might include even some virtual type services. So we bring you that revision tonight for your first reading approval.
So moved.
I second that motion.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor said motion, let me know I'm saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries.
Okay, then we go to policy KF and some revisions there. This is the community use of facilities policy. This moves those different uses to approval through, again, that administration student services office. A couple of things that have been emphasized is that when someone wants to use the school cafeteria kitchen, the kitchen portion, they do have to have an employee that is a kitchen operator working at the time. It also requires a proof of liability insurance coverage. That could be a one-day coverage policy, what's called an event coverage policy. We would certainly have some vendors that we would have available if people wanted to contact those, or they could contact one of their choosing. Or a lot of community groups already have their own $1 million liability coverage, and they just produce us a certificate of insurance. So the schedule of fees and such is the same as it used to be. We don't make any money off of the use of our facilities. We just pay the people who have to work and have to clean up afterwards. So nothing there has changed. Again, the big emphasis on page 2 is that if they use the kitchen at the cafeteria, they have to pay a kitchen operator to be there while they're using. So we would recommend approval. We would also note that we will make a correction on the word proof down there where we have a typo.
Doc, let me ask a question here.
Yes, sir.
You said part of this requirement for a person or organization is that they have proof of $1 million in liability insurance coverage. And I can remember in the past where we've had a couple of churches that have been burned or either damaged by tornadoes or what have you, and we have provided assistance to those churches on Sunday. So if that case happened and we get a request, that church would need a $1 million policy from here on out. Is that right? Liability policy?
That's correct, but we don't ever have a problem with like a church or something having that. They typically already have that in place. It's just a matter of them providing us the certificate of insurance.
Well, I don't think he was here when we did a couple of churches. That's all right. Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, well, I need a motion on this. We're going to recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I got a motion in a second. Any other discussion? Hearing no more discussion, I call for the vote. All those in favor said motion, let know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, Dr. Good.
Okay, members of the board and Mr. Chair, I assure you I will not take as long to go through slides as I did the last time we met, but I did want to bring you some updates tonight on our reentry plan. I did notice just before I came in the meeting tonight, that the remaining 14 school districts did finally receive approval for their plans. We did receive approval for ours a few weeks back. And so what we talked about last time basically is there. Some changes that have happened though since we talked last was the state superintendent a week or so ago issued a directive that face coverings had to be worn at all times in school buildings. Just as quickly as she issued that, she then issued an amendment to that directive and basically went back to what we had proposed to you last month, which is mask worn while on buses for all students, when they're moving throughout the building, when socially distanced in the classroom, students or staff may be able to remove their mask. And of course, if teachers or staff are the sole occupants of their classroom or office. So we are back to what we discussed in July. There was a good bit of chatter, I guess you would say, when the state superintendent put out that directive. And again, it was quickly sort of amended. So I wanted to make you aware of that. Since we last met, we also have put out a number of frequently asked questions. And I understand that we have one last one that is for face-to-face instruction for parents so that we can answer some of those face-to-face questions the same way we've answered these. Of course, you know, in a situation like this, you find that you're answering the same questions. So we work through trying to get all of those on paper for folks. But we've done that for employees, we've done that for virtual learning, and we've done that for principals. And in fact, I think, Dr. Anderson, we're already at 2.0 on principals. We've already issued an update to that one, and we'll be issuing updates as we go. Also, since we left our last meeting, we have completed the summer academic recovery camp. We did complete that successfully. We did have a couple of situations we had to navigate, but I think I was most interested in how well the students adapted to the different protocols and how well they managed all of that, and also the staff members. We also have been hanging water bottle filling stations around the schools or in our schools since we cannot use water fountains. We're in the process of wrapping that up now. We also, you probably know that Mary Alice Matthews, our current lead nurse or our outgoing lead nurse, is retiring. So our incoming lead nurse, Nurse Johnson, they've been working together and have created the isolation plans for schools, because if we have someone who presents symptoms of COVID, we have to be able to isolate them appropriately until parents are contacted and they are picked up. So they have been doing that, as well as a whole lot of other things to prepare. The district food service staff has also been significantly impacted by what all's been going on. They have been developing plans on how to prepare and serve meals for face-to-face students, also to supply meals for students while we're on the AB on the day they're not in school. And then also another kicker to all this is we have to be prepared to distribute meals for virtual students. We'll do that very similar to how we did our program beginning last March, where they will come to a designated school to pick up those meals. And it's going to be really a trick to figure out what our daily counts are on all of that. But Ms. Brown and her whole staff, they're working through that, and we will be there. I just thank goodness that we are a community eligibility district and do not have to take up any money, because if we were not community eligibility, those virtual students who were full pay or reduced would actually have to pay when they pick their meal up. We'd have to figure out who pays, who doesn't, and all that. So meals are still free for all students in Chesterfield County. Also, since we last met, the State Department has raised the maximum bus capacity from 50% to 66%. That should help us greatly on transporting students. We feel good about our ability to transport students opening up. We also placed a very large PPE order with the State Department of Education. I was a little bit conservative when we were placing that order last week. And then the state superintendent came on to our meeting on last Thursday and notified us that they had decided they were going to pay for the entire order. I wish I had doubled everything I'd asked for. But no, I need to go back and add to the order. So we did order, though, quite a bit of additional PPE, which ended up coming at no cost to the district. Dr. Hale and her staff completed the requirements to order the Department of Education provided hotspots. That is based on our number of pupils in poverty. She has done those surveying, has already gotten that in, and we've gotten verification that ours has been received. The one concern we have is that we do not have a delivery date yet for those hotspots, but we are assured that we're supposed to have them before we start school, which we'll talk a little bit about starting school on a later slide. We're also in the process of assigning students to AB cohorts and virtual cohorts. It's interesting the number of questions we've gotten about assigning those cohorts and how those are chosen. But I'm sorry to say it's just real vanilla. It is by alphabet. It's how we're going to assign schools to cohorts. We're going to go halfway down our students and figure out where that is in the alphabet. And we're going to say these are the A and these are the B's. Principals, though, we've asked them to please make adjustments if they have households that have children with differing last names. It might get split to an A or a B opposite day so that all students from the same household can attend on the same day. We should have those AB cohorts assigned by the end of this week. I know parents really need to know that so that they can make arrangements for childcare. So we will be very quickly making those assignments. I would like to also note that 4K classes all have to be face-to-face instruction, And we have already set a date to return them to family model of instruction. Remember, family model is where they come to school and they do everything in that one classroom. We do meals in the classroom. We do art, music, everything happens in that one classroom. We are going to go to family model on Tuesday, September the 8th. We've received information from a lot of parents who wanted their children in 4K, but they were not able to make the AB work because their backup plan was one that was going to also require them to pay. So we have looked at our numbers. We can't have more than 20 students in a 4K classroom. So there's 20 students and 2 adults, and those are actually extra large classrooms. So we'll feel comfortable that we can manage the family model beginning on Tuesday, September the 8th.
Doc, will the 4K be attending school on August 24th? What kind of model will you be using up until September the 8th?
We'll be on an AB model for the first 2 weeks of school to get them established with routines and procedures. Because remember, they don't even know how to open a milk carton yet. So we'll get our number during that time.
Dr. Goodman, this is Eric Dusa. For the 4K, are they going to be, is that going to be a full 8-hour day with those kids in one class? Or are you going to shrink it down a little bit? Because those 8 hours with those little ones in the same classroom, I don't know about that.
Yes, sir. That day is actually a little bit shorter anyhow. So I completely agree, because if you had me in that classroom for 8 hours, it would be a bad day. So yes, sir, we agree. There's also some opportunity within our schools that we could actually move them out for art and music, even though they're on the family model. We may be able to work a pullout just to get them out of that same room.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And since our numbers for virtual were so high, we're going to have more room in the cafeteria, so we may be able to actually feed them breakfast, lunch in the cafeteria too.
Okay.
We will open with the AB hybrid schedule. They will, the cohorts will normally be A day on Monday and Thursday, B day on Tuesday and Friday. The reason I say normally is because right out the chute, we get to Labor Day. We got a 4-day week. We will divide that AB that week, and will not have a Wednesday schedule that week. There's been a lot of questions about what the AB schedule looks like on Wednesdays, and that will be servicing students with IEPs, selected students with 504 plans, selected ESL students, selected RTI students, and selected reading recovery students. There's also room there for us to do CTE students, all of those special populations that need a little more contact, maybe for hands-on type activities. We can use that day for those type of activities. So that will be how the Wednesday schedule looks. We'll have the Wednesday schedule the first 2 weeks. The third week, since that's Labor Day, we'll skip and not have a Wednesday schedule, and then we'll pick back up after that.
Doc, Board Member Swinney, you originally had this on Mondays and Wednesdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays. What was the reason for going to Wednesday?
The reason for going to the schedule that we are on is because of food service. I'll just be honest, that was the driving force. Because of the number of days that we can send meals home for, this schedule was the one that we had to go with, was the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday being the hybrid day, Thursday, Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Goodwin, Eric Dusa again. What, I know this is down the road a little bit, but what kind of situation or schedule do you have to try and get the kids back into all 5 days? I know you can't forecast it, but do you have some sort of threshold that we're looking at to get them back in, or what's the district's plans?
Well, Mr. Producer, we actually, and boy, I need real wood to knock on, because we're actually doing some real good stuff statewide right now and countywide. But we would go on that 14-day decreasing threshold that the DHEC has done. Okay. We would, as you remember, we've always committed, we would give parents a 2-week outlook at a time. So we will do that. But I will say that the number of the percentage of positive tests as well as the overall numbers have been very encouraging for the last, 10 days or so. While there have been spikes, it's been much more encouraging. We hope that trend will continue. We believe that we're starting to see some impact of the big box stores going to mandatory masking and people finally seeing that they need to do some things to mitigate. It seems like we might be making a turn, but I do need wood to knock on when I say that. But obviously our numbers, when we go to the next slide, with the number of folks that went virtual, it's going to be a little easier for us to come back full time because the density of students in a building is going to be a lot less than we're used to. So
Okay.
that's also working in our favor.
All right.
Okay, the biggest shock we had when I met with you in July, I told you we were told to expect 10 to 15% would go virtual. That was the numbers that we were being given by the state. And we ended up with about 43% going virtual of total, 43, 45% going virtual. We had approximately 3,000 students who registered for virtual. I will say we saw a very dramatic spike when Superintendent Spearman announced mandatory masks at all times in schools. We've had a few people, and we said all along we could move them out of virtual school while we were scheduling, but we couldn't move more into virtual because we've committed to our numbers there. That number has crept down just a little bit, and we firmed that up now right at 3,000. We'll have to cut off that movement now from virtual to face-to-face now because we did begin staff allocations today, pretty hard staff allocations. So we began that process. Those parents have committed to enrolling through the end of the semester, and we will actually have to conduct a whole new virtual school registration in December, and we will have to reallocate staff. So we do have that in place. The next thing which made this really complicated was we had 2,100 families request a device. Now, I will say that number may go down some once parents begin verifying income, household income, and eligibility. But we do have to provide, we have to plan for the largest number. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. We do not have 2,100 devices in our district ready to send home with students. As you knew, we had we'd ordered about 2,800 Chromebooks, and we received about 200 of those, but the other 2,600 got hung up in customs and will not be here till very significantly later in first semester. So in the meantime, Dr. Hale and some of our partners have worked together, and we have secured between 2,500 and 3,000 devices, used Chromebooks. These Chromebooks were used by a district. They were on a lease plan, and they were on a full maintenance plan. We feel like that we're going to be able to get enough devices out of that to meet the need once we have the income eligibility established. I will say that while those devices are being loaned to us, this is no free lunch because we have to buy a Google license for every single one of those devices that we use, and we have to pay for maintenance and engineering on those devices. So we are looking at a rather significant outlay of money for the 1-year use of this device. But when you put it into the big picture, it ends up being about $50 to $55 a device total package. So if you look at it like that, it's really not that big of an outlay when you say $55 per device. If you say the average life of a Chromebook is 4 years, I guess if we could buy them every year used like that and only pay $55 for a year's use, that'd be a good deal. I don't think we're going to get that deal very often, but those devices should be arriving in district probably late this week, next week. We will be staging those at Palmetto Learning Center. Every device has to be touched. The account has to be activated, and then they have to be preloaded with our information for students. They also have to have all of the control software from the district placed on them. For instance, if a device gets stolen, we can actually turn that device off where once the power button is hit, it wipes that device clean and makes it useless. So we have to, all of that has to be done one device at a time. So every one of those devices has to be touched and activated once they get to us. So that was a lot of information. Before I move on, is there any question about those devices? Because that was a significant change, was the enrollment of virtual school, and then the whole device issue is just a very significant development since we last met.
Yeah, go ahead, James.
My question was that since we have these devices on loan, they'll just be on loan for us until we get our new devices in. Is that correct?
No, sir. Because we have to activate them for a full year, we will use these for our virtual learning all year this year, and we will use our other devices for other students. So that'll get us, closer. If we had a complete shutdown, say in February, we would be closer to 1-to-1 as a district.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, do we have enough engineering staff to keep up in the field? Because everyone knows that those things are going to be, something's going to get changed, the setting's going to get changed, something, and they're not going to be able to use it. Do we have enough field staff in each attendance area to service these?
No, sir, we don't. And that is why we actually had to go with contracted engineering and servicing. And that was part of that overall $55 cost.
Okay.
We just do not have and by the way, even with the new ones that we've ordered, when they arrive, we will actually have engineering services on those also. That will have to be the way, as we move to 1-to-1, that will be the way we will have to do it from year to year.
All right.
Doc, when we get those devices that we're now getting, and then when our other devices come in, and I heard you say that we'll almost be from 1-to-1. Do you know how far we'll be away in terms of numbers?
Well, we'll be reasonably close, but the problem is these loaner devices after 1 year go away, so we would have to replace all of those. So
Okay.
we're a significant way from being 1-to-1, but I can assure you that between whatever supplemental application we get, then we're going to bring you some models for you to consider and to talk about that would get us to that number. Because as you know, we are in the EOC's pilot program this year for pilot process. And our move, we are certainly moving forward with reaching a 1-to-1 status.
Okay, thank you.
The other mentioned earlier, the remote hotspots. The state purchased all of these hotspots, but they only are able to service those hotspots until December the 31st of 2020, because that's when the CARES Act money runs out. Right now, there is no plan to renew the service on those, but I do believe that as the legislature comes back, there's going to be a good bit of pressure put on them to find a way to at least extend those through the school year. But we're having to tell parents up front that there is no guarantee, and that as far as we know, those hotspots will expire on December the 31st, 2020.
Man, that would make a tremendous impact on our educational program if they discontinue that.
It certainly would. Yes, sir.
I got a question on those hotspots. Are they just designated for the use for the children, or is it an open hotspot?
That's the $100,000 or $800,000 question, Mr. Deussen.
Okay.
We're not knowledgeable of that, but we do know this. We were told that they were unlimited data.
Okay.
Which is a little scary.
And is it going to be Verizon, AT&T? Because you got a good bit of the district. If it's AT&T, that it's probably not good. They're probably not going to work, in some of those rural areas. Do we know who services it?
Yes, sir. We were able to choose the service provider, And of course, we did choose Verizon because that does cover the most of our district.
Okay, all right. That's good to know. That's good to know. All right.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, we are in the process of assigning staff right now. I'm sure staff is, if the kids are wanting to, or parents want to know if their kids are AD, our staff want to know what they're teaching. And so we're working very diligently to get that taken care of. A few things about virtual teachers. If they're a virtual teacher and they work with us full-time, they will still report to their home school daily. They'll still do, duties like car rider duty, bus duty, lunch duty, just like all of the other teachers. That's for the parity there that we need. Typically, an elementary virtual teacher will be full-time virtual. That will be what they do all day, every day. But at the middle and high school, it very well could be that if a middle school teacher teaches 5 classes a day, they might teach 2 classes face-to-face and 3 virtual, or they might teach 3 virtual and 2 face-to-face. So that will be, that will be a difference between the elementary and the middle and high. For the most part, teachers will teach students that belong to their home school, but there are some instances where we're going to have a teacher in school A teach some school students who are in school B, because that was the only way we could make the staffing allocations work out. So we will do that. I will say that we've given a significant preference for student-teacher ratios to face-to-face instruction. There's not classroom management issues when they're virtual. You're not trying to keep them socially distanced when they're virtual. You're not trying to keep the face mask on them when they're virtual. So we tried to keep the face-to-face classes as small as we could. Okay. Most of our classes, as we told you last month, will be on demand. That is also referred to in the world I understand as asynchronous, which means a child can log on at any time and do the work. We are going to have some cases where we're going to have synchronous virtual instruction, and that's in those special classes like career and technology classes. Some of those are going to be synchronous, where they log on with the teacher live and have live interaction with the class. We'll be doing that with some GT classes. We'll also be doing that with some singleton classes, maybe like AP classes and such. So we will have some synchronous learning going on in the district, and so wanted to make you aware of that. Would remind you that virtual students must come to their home school for state mandated assessments. That's not a Chesterfield County rule. That was actually part of all of the legislation that has enabled us to do everything that we're doing for students this year, and especially with providing the virtual education. So we're going to be doing a good bit of MAP testing, KRA testing, MTS screeners, and all of that in the first few weeks of school with virtual students. We'll do some of that during the day, but we'll be doing some of that after hours and into the evenings, because obviously if the parents didn't want their child at the school when the bulk of the kids were there, we need to honor that by keeping them in real small settings when we test them.
I got a question on the virtual.
Yep.
Are we using a platform, or our teachers are instructing?
We're using platforms at all levels. We're using Calvert Learning at the elementary level. Of course, now teachers, there are parts teachers have to do, and where they're interacting with students. Then we're Apex at middle and high, and we're also SC Virtual at high school. So we are using platform-based software.
Okay. All right.
And it is the approved software. It is from the approved software selection.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I just included the bus transportation slide from last time just because I upped it to 66% capacity. And of course, we told you that our summer school bus drivers had already, gotten used to misting those buses and doing that, and they're quite efficient with that. We also included the slide again for you on visitors, because that's going to be a real stress point for districts across the state. Go ahead, the next slide. And basically, we will keep visitors up at the front. We'll use a conference room at the front. We'll use that kind of stuff. We won't have visitors coming to lunch with students or to the classrooms. You know, we won't be able to do the birthday party cupcakes like we try to let people do. You know, all of that has to end. This is going to be very, very difficult for especially our 4K and 5K students on their first day at school, because we're going to have to meet those children at the door, and we're going to have adults who meet them and walk them through that class. And that's going to be very, very stressful, I know, on both parents and students, but it is a protocol that we have been asked to make sure that we abide by. We will continue to use virtual meetings as much as possible. We have a number of virtual platforms that we're available to use. Obviously, we're using Zoom tonight. We have the Microsoft Teams platform, and we'll have the Google Hangout platform that we will have at our disposal. So, you know, our staff members will have plenty of different ways to connect with parents virtually if needed. Also included the field trips and extracurricular activity slide. You probably noticed that the high school league pushed off the start of football and volleyball practice until September the 8th. Some of the low-risk sports are going to start before that with practice. But I think with a bunch of the news about athletics right now, that might even get modified more. And of course, along with that, we have suspended all field trips indefinitely. And you know, we will ask our folks to encourage the use of virtual field trips. We do have a few after-school programs that we will continue to try to modify so that we can continue to help out there within the guidelines. This is probably the slide that we're going to need to get Mr. Buck to get out public as quickly as we can, because this is where the rubber meets the road on a bunch of dates. While we've adopted a calendar, this actually puts it into place what happens. August 17th is a big day because our teachers all report to work on that Monday. Obviously, we're not going to have our big opening ceremony and those kinds of things. We're just going to get to work being ready to open school. That is also the same day that NETC dual credit classes begin. NETC has made the effort to align with our school schedule, and they were aligned with our school schedule until we had to change our dates. But those NETC dual credit classes will begin as planned on August 17th. And of course, they have other rolling start dates in the semester, so a particular student may start at different times. August 24th is a huge date in the district because that's when we bring back in the students and begin working with them on the AB schedule. We had the LEAP days for elementary and middle schools. We'll be doing a lot of assessment with those students. And then on also the high school students will begin instruction. And we also have to assess all 9th graders within the first 10 days of school. So we'll be pushing hard to get that MAP testing done. Also, if a student is taking a class that is synchronous virtual, they will begin on August 24th also. The virtual school assessment, orientation, device distribution, and all will occur in the 2 weeks of August 24th through September the 4th. And then, of course, since LEAP days end after 1 week, we put in August 31st, which is the day that face-to-face classes officially begin for students. Then also I noted that September the 8th, virtual school begins on that Tuesday. That's also the date we're going to return 4K classes to the family model. I will note that any high school classes that are on the virtual SC platform will not actually start until September the 16th, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a Wednesday. They pushed back another week and a couple of days on their opening. I will say, though, that those high school classes all do still finish before Christmas under the semester model that they're under. I said it was less slides, but it felt like more information to me.
Couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Board Member Swinney. With the capacity of bus drivers, bus capacity going up to 66% now, is that going to create some problems in our district? We're going to still have to do a lot of double routes?
No, sir. In fact, with the number of students we're going to have virtually, once we establish some bus routes and some ridership, we actually think we're going to be able to park some buses and to save some labor costs there during first semester because of the number of students on virtual education.
Okay, and then the second question, with the virtual school, students doing this assessment, I'm sure that they're trying to find out where they are. Are we gonna change the curriculum once we get the results in, or what?
Well, the state is requiring the assessment because they want to see what the slide academically has been during COVID. So we have
Okay,
one assessment now and one in December. But of course, we're going to have to focus on where the students are to get them to move forward.
okay, that got me.
Okay, well, we will, I'm sure there'll be more changes and more adjustments as time goes on, but we will keep you posted. That really is my superintendent's report, Mr. Chair. I think I've spoken enough.
Well, on behalf of the board, I say thank you, Dr. Goodman, for all the hard work, you and your staff. I know this has been probably, it's tough just getting started and then get into the kids here. We've had a lot of, we've been facing a lot of obstacles, let's say that. But, it's something we never had faced before. I thank you all for your hard work, and maybe we can get kids back in and try to educate them as best we can. At this time, moving on down to the chairman's comments. I got 3 items here. One, our first item is November 3rd, election information. On November 3rd, we'll have an election on 5 of the board members on the district, on the school board. That filing period opened on August 3rd and ends on August 17th at noon. At this time, all 5 board members have already signed up. All incumbents have signed up, and the ones that's going to be in District 4, there's Chad Vick, District 5, Jamie Lane, District 6, James Sweeney, District 7, Robert Teal, and District 8, Eric Dusa. So that's all the information on the election. Those terms will go from January 1, 2021 to December 31, 2024. Moving down to our next item, we're down to is our next meeting will be on September 14th. This will be at New Heights Middle School. Our board member, our meeting will start at 5:30, executive session at 5. September 3rd, 28th will be a board workshop at the district office here. Dr. Goodman, I'm sure you're gonna have a lot to talk about with that one. So we'll probably have a full plate on that, but it's gonna be at 5 o'clock, September 28th. Other than that, that's all I have on the business. If no other business we have, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say motion, let me know I'm saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. Thank you.
Good evening, folks.
All right, everybody have a good evening.
Thank you.